What is up, sports fans, and welcome to Backport Sportscast Episode 1. I'm Hunter Jennings alongside Rob and Buster. How are you guys doing?
Good. Ready to go.
Hey, I'm doing good. Good.
Nice.
Sports are back on the TV.
Thank
So that's always exciting.
God, because I was getting upset without sports. Breaking news out of the NFL today that I did not expect at all. Jamal Adams traded to the Jets for 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and another safety, Bradley McDougal. I probably said that wrong. That completely blew my mind today. I did not expect that to happen. Especially, I don't know how I feel about the 2 first-round picks. I know Seattle, usually their picks are later in the rounds, which they usually draft better later anyways. But, 2 first-round picks is a big thing, especially back-to-back years. What are y'all thoughts on that so far?
Well, I think 2 first and a third is a hell of a lot to give up.
Yes.
Not to mention you threw in a starting safety as well. Obviously, nowhere near the caliber of Adams, but 2 first, a third, and a starting safety. So initial thoughts right off the bat, obviously Jamal Adams is probably one of the best safeties in the league, if not the best. But all you get in return other than Adams is a 4th-round pick. So you gave up 3 picks better than that 4th round. And a starting safety back over. So I think that's kind of robbery. But if you can lock Adams up and make sure that you've got him signed to a long-term deal, I do think the Seahawks are in a win-now window. So this is something that's going to solidify that secondary and help strengthen the back end of their defense. And it's something that could put them over the top.
What are your thoughts, Buster?
I mean, I like it. I think Jamal really fits the way Seattle likes to play football on the defensive end. I mean, when you kind of look at Jamal, I guess you would kind of consider him, kind of similar in the play of Earl Thomas. The only thing I would say is that Jamal is, he plays more up towards the line of scrimmage or whatnot. But I honestly think that this is a big help for that defense. Not only that, it brings leadership, it brings good football IQ and whatnot to that defense. Definitely help. He'll definitely get all those guys in the right spot, on the back end and whatnot. And like Rob said, it's definitely going to help them tremendously on that side of the football and possibly put them over the top when it comes to that. So I like it. When you think about the draft picks and whatnot, you really don't know what those draft picks are going to consume later on in the future, just as long as you get that player. And just like Rob said, if they can just somehow figure out a way to just lock up Adams, I think they'll be in good shape from here to the near future.
Yeah, that's what this whole trade hinges on. It would really suck if they, did this whole trade and he's like, nope, I'm going somewhere else. So I know there definitely had to have been discussions of locking him up long term.
For sure.
His stats last year, he fell off in tackles. The year before he had 115. This year he only racked in 75. He did rack in 6.5 sacks and interception. So he's definitely one of those. I do like the comparison to Earl Thomas. I think Earl Thomas was one of the first breeds of what pretty much bred the honey badger and people like that are safeties that can play pretty much anywhere on the field if they wanted to. So I really hope this is the beginning of a Legion of Boom 2.0, which we've been seeing them try to create the past few years. And I think him playing next to Diggs. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be like Cam and ET3, but Diggs is a ball player, so that is going to be a great duo right there. And if we can just get the secondary to step it up, we can just see where it goes from there. I think our team this year is going to be insane. That's my,
I'm going to be honest with you. As a Cowboys fan, I hate to see him go to Seattle. I've been trying to get Jamal Adams to Dallas since pretty much the beginning of last season.
Oh, and I'm scared he's going to leave for Dallas.
I mean, we know Dallas was his number one landing spot. That's where he wanted to go. But he had a list of 7 or 8 teams or so that he would be willing to play for. All contenders, obviously. He wants to win. But yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed to see him in Seattle. Especially Dallas has to play Seattle this year. So that's not exciting. But yeah, I think overall, as a Dallas fan, I don't know that I would have wanted to give up this type of package to land him, but I definitely see Seattle being bolstered on that back end of that secondary now because of this. So it'll be a little scary.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to give up, especially with him being a free agent next year. That once I sat down and thought about that, I was like, that's a lot to give up for someone potentially going into free agency and testing the market.
The thing about deals like this, though, is that if you're giving up this much for a guy who's going into free agency, you pretty much have those unwritten guarantees that they're staying with you long term.
Mm-hmm.
Front offices aren't just giving up this kind of package for a guy that they're just hoping to keep. They're giving up this kind of package for a guy that they know is going to stay. They've already got that unwritten guarantee.
For sure.
So I'd be highly shocked if he went anywhere else.
Well, if 2020's taught us anything.
Well, you know what? I am a Mavericks fan, and we almost had DeAndre 1 year. So.
And he backed out. And guess who came the year after that and left again? That's insane. So basically, I guess we'll just hop right into our first topic today. So, Rob, if you can explain it was 4 in, 4 out. You know, some of us did 4 in, 4 out. I did 2 in, 2 out. Rob, I'm not sure exactly. I think you did 3 in. What'd you do?
Well, we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Can you give us a little background on that? Because I think we started doing this, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 4 in, 4 out is one of my favorite topics that we've been doing for a few years. It's basically the NFL has such turnover, such parity in the league. That's what makes it one of the best league going is the constant turnover. You never know. Every year, new teams are getting in. Teams from the previous year in the playoffs are getting kicked out. So the way it goes is for the past 10 or 15 years, at minimum, 4 new teams are going into the playoffs, and 4 teams that made it the previous year are getting kicked out. So that just kind of shows the parity of the league there. But this year, it's a little bit different now because the NFL did add those 2 additional playoff spots. So I think what we went with was putting 4 in and taking 2 out from the previous year. But if you decided to take out an additional 3rd or 4th one and add a couple more in, you could go that route as well.
So I will go first with my 2 out teams. Like I said, I did 2 in, or I did 2 out, 4 in, because the way the playoffs are going now, I think it's going to be hard to miss playoffs, honestly.
Yeah, for the good teams, absolutely.
For sure. My first out team is the Vikings. So they lost Diggs. So my main concern right now is, can Thielen be the number 1 receiver? They didn't really address receiver in anything but the draft. They got rookie Justin Jefferson out of LSU and KJ Osborne out of Miami. So that's potentially him starting next to 2 rookies. I'm not doubting Thielen's talent, but I will say he is 30 years old, coming off of a hamstring injury, and we know people start to get older and get those hamstring injuries. Those usually linger for some time, if not the rest of your career. Another questionable thing I have on the Vikings is obviously the quarterback position. You don't know what kind of quarterback you're going to get for the week, because Cousins can go out there and he can play a ball game, or he can go out there and forget how to throw the ball. I mean, honestly, like Cousins, I feel I don't know how to sum him up in words. He can do some amazing things. He has an amazing talent, but he has some amazing inconsistency.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know how, with everything happening with this camp, with COVID and everything, how he's going to get. You know, quarterbacks start throwing with their receivers sooner than camp. So I don't know how he's gonna do with potentially two rookies coming in and starting. Which I looked at the whole depth chart. Honestly, I think it's the two rookies coming in to start. They really didn't add much depth to the wide receiver position that has a lot of potential that hasn't been in the league a while and moved around a lot. Their defense, they took a hit on defense. When I was looking this up, they lost 3 starting cornerbacks to free agency. Now, we're not going to sit here and act like last year their secondary was amazing, but that's 3 starting veterans you just lost. They did pick up a cornerback. I cannot see. They did pick up a quarterback in the draft from TCU, Jeff Gladney, and they swiped up a potential high round talent, Cameron Dotzler. If I pronounce a name wrong, I am completely sorry. I'm reading this from my phone, and I am not great at that. So that's 2 rookies in the secondary. I don't know, and I know they had problems last year in the secondary and the defense. So I have them out overall because they just didn't really add anything that amazed me. It looks like, the Vikings have been trying to build up to a Super Bowl team for years, and it's like they always lose something, turn around and try to gain something. It's just kind of, teeter-tottering back and forth between playoff potential and, them not making it. That's my take on the Vikings. Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think if you go back and look at Kirk Cousins' first year in Minnesota, he signed that big deal, the fully guaranteed deal, the first of its kind, and you're kind of thinking, he didn't really show much or prove much when he was in Washington, but he was one of those guys that you kind of felt like he had something there to offer, but it was just really uncertain because they didn't have ever a lot going on in Washington. And then he signs that big lucrative deal in Minnesota, and they kind of fall on their face that first year. And so, yeah, I mean, it's something that I think he needs to have that relationship with his receivers. And like you spoke to, with the new receivers coming in, the only guy he's got really returning is Thielen. I think that definitely raises some concern.
You have any thoughts on that one, Buster?
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you mentioned the Vikings because they're actually one of my teams on my 4 out and whatnot. Basically, just pretty much the same thing that you said. You just don't know what type of quarterback you're going to get out of Kirk Cousins. I mean, like you said, we see the talent is there. He can put games together. He'll have good numbers one week and then come back next week, throw 3 picks. So like you said, just don't know what type of quarterback you're going to get week in and week out. I don't know if this will still be an issue in the next season, but you also got to think about Dalvin Cook, his injury, problems. His rookie year, he got hurt. And then, last year he had got hurt. What was it, like later on in the season? He got hurt during that time.
I think he might have been limited a few games as well.
Yeah, I know he played in the playoff games,
mm-hmm.
but like as far as like later on in the season last year, he got hurt and whatnot. But yeah, and then the fact that they lost Diggs, so like you said, he's still the only relationship he got is with Adam Thielen. A kind of a little bit. Do they still? I don't know if they still have Kyle Rudolph.
They do have Rudolph. They do.
Yeah. So he still kind of got Kyle Rudolph. He started to kind of find him a lot in the later part of the season last year. whatnot. But yeah, those really the only two guys and whatnot. You know, got the rookie Jefferson, like you said, and then on the defensive end, you know, losing those guys like that. Like you said, they weren't the best, but like you said, there's 3 starting veterans. You know, and in this league, I think having a few veterans on the team is a pretty good advantage. So, you know, bringing in young guys to play, you know, right off the bat right there can kind of, you know, take a toll on you for the first few seasons and whatnot. But yeah, that was pretty much my same thoughts on the Vikings being one of my teams out also.
And yeah, I was going to bring that up. I just couldn't remember if Cook had been hurt in that season, but I know he does have problems with injury as well. And that's, you know, when that's what your team is relying on is the run game, that's a big toll. So for my second team, good one. I do not have the Texans making the playoffs this year. The D-Hop trade made no sense. I wish I could keep. I don't know how Houston has not called for Bill O'Brien's head. I don't know how he is still a coach. I don't know how he is a GM. That trade makes no sense to me. You go and you let the number 2 receiver in the league go. Debatable on, you know, we'll debate that on how good the O-line plays. The number 1 or number 2 receiver in the league, you let him go for, and let me not get this wrong, because it's right here. You let him go for a running back, David Johnson, who was hurt for 2 seasons, who has not put up great numbers in 2 seasons, and I understand he was hurt, but you know, running back injuries are different. You gave him up for David Johnson, and I think I can't remember what off top, a 2nd round pick or a 1st or a 3rd round pick. It was a pick later, a 2nd round pick for a 2nd round pick. You're not finding D-Hop in the 2nd round. And they didn't find D-Hop in the 2nd round.
But instead, who did they find?
They found, and I got it, you know, I got it right here. They found, oh man. Okay, maybe I didn't write that one down, but they did take, I actually don't think they took a receiver with that 2nd round pick.
But they got Brandon Cooks though.
Because they honestly they didn't have a 1st round pick either. They were pick 40 in the draft. Because remember that Tunsil trade. So they did not have a 1st round pick. I believe they actually drafted a D tackle in the 2nd round. So I'm gonna go over some stats here and back up why the D-Hop trade again was awful. We're going to start with Will Fuller last year, 11 games played, 71 targets, 41 caught passes, 670 total yards, 3 touchdowns. Did not play a full season. Played 11 games. I think he's played 1 full season. I did go through all the seasons. I did not write them all down. I think he played 1 whole season. Brandon Cooks, games played 14, targeted 72 times, caught 42, 583 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was also, you know, I will say Cooks is a more reliable receiver. I thought he was injured more. And I'm sorry, Tim, I thought Cooks has been injured more throughout his career. He's actually played 3 total seasons out of, I believe, 5. He has had 2 injury-prone seasons, which, you know, it's all going to come together once I finish this list. Potentially receiver number 3. Now, we're going to have a little receiver battle here in Texas between Kenny Stills and Randall Cobb. Whoa, man, what a receiver battle, guys. We've got Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb did play 15 games last year, and I'm not going to lie, this stat blew my mind for how much I talked down on Dak Prescott. He played 15 games, had 83 targets, 55 caught passes. And I don't know if this is wrong. I don't know if I looked at this wrong. He had 823 yards last year.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know Randall Cobb got used. That blows my absolute mind. Again, another not full season played. Then I came to D-Hop. This could debunk my whole thing about people not playing full seasons, because for some reason, I don't know why he played 15 games. So, I don't know why D-Hop only played 15 games. But he also only played 15 games and was targeted 150 times, almost double any other receiver on this list that y'all are trying to, step into the first place role. He also caught 104. The next closest person was 72, actually 83. The next he doubled the catches of anyone else on this list. Okay? He doubled the catches of anyone else on the list. And he had 1,165 yards and 7 touchdowns.
They don't need him.
Apparently they don't. Because they got a running back that ran for 500 yards last year.
Hey, but he used to be good like 4 years ago. Remember how awesome he was 4 years ago?
Oh, yeah, 4 years ago when...
David Johnson caught the league by storm.
What about last year when, before the season started, he promised 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards? But
how many did he get?
He got, I don't know the extent of that. He got like 500 rushing yards. And by the way, he also got his starting job taken by Kenyon Drake out of Miami.
The Cardinals said we need another running back, and they went and traded for Kenyon Drake.
Oh my God. I won't dwell on that trade any longer because I could sit here and talk about that the whole time. Except now I'm gonna go talk about the O-line, who let this poor young quarterback that can run get sacked. Where is it? Because I have the number right here. I have it. It's 65 times. I believe, and I didn't go deep into this, but I believe the most hit quarterback in the NFL last year. And if I'm not wrong, the most hit quarterback in the NFL the year before that too. I could be wrong on that. I don't think I am, but I could be. I'm not doubting what DeAndre Hopkins could do with this receiver core, but it was a downgrade.
Don't you mean Deshaun Watson?
Did I say DeAndre Hopkins?
Yeah.
Thank you, Buster.
They don't have him.
Yeah, he's gone. I don't doubt what Deshaun Watson can do with this receiver core. I doubt his O-line. Hopefully Tunsil does stay healthy and abides by the NFL guidelines. Throwback to draft day when he dropped to the Dolphins.
Man, that's in the past, man. You gotta leave past.
But in all honesty,
it's legal now. It's legal now, anyways.
In all honesty, it's raining outside. In all honesty, he is a great left tackle, and I think if they get a bunch of young guys around him, he can hopefully coach them up. I believe he has developed through the years. They did last year. They did have a lineman go down at the guard position. That's why they lost. Up with a lot of sacks. They have since then bolstered that O-line, but hopefully, I'm not going to make any assumptions. That's why they're on this list. Good. Defense wise, they made some minor free agent pickups, adding depth to D-line. But, the big question on defense will always be, until he's gone, J.K. Watt, is he going to play a full season?
Yeah.
I just think there are too many questions surrounding the Texans to put them in the playoff run.
Yep, I agree.
And that's my opinion. Y'all have anything y'all would like to add to that? Any other things y'all see that y'all want to add to this? That, unless y'all, Y'all don't have to add anything if it's on y'all's topics too. It doesn't matter. So y'all have some.
It's on mine.
Okay.
Yeah, they're definitely on mine.
Rob.
It was actually my first team on the 4 out. So man, the thing that I look at is, why on earth would they make Bill O'Brien the GM and the head coach at the same time? I mean, that man there is just to do one job, and that's just a coach. He shouldn't be over, any player personnel or anything like that, because he doesn't. I mean, for real though, if he had any sense whatsoever, and he was over player personnel, he can go out and get anybody. Well, why would he want to get rid of his best receiver? That lets you know right there that the man has no sense whatsoever. So that was definitely their first mistake.
But the whole team, the ownership, everything, they have no sense whatsoever. You hit the nail on the head with that term, that phrase. They have no. They said, okay. they had a average football coach, right?
Right.
Just middle of the pack type guy, can coach a football team, can lead men, whatever. Nothing great. And then they said, you know what? We're going to do away with this GM over here. What should we do? We should make our average football coach the GM also. What? They have no sense whatsoever. And I don't know how he's not been run out of town yet. I don't understand it.
And honestly, I really think this is Watson's last year on his contract, right? On his rookie deal, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think they.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, I think. Okay, yeah, they opted to use his 5th year. Yeah.
Okay. I honestly don't think that man will remain a Texan. I think that he will be out of Houston, because you got to look like you said about the O-line. If they can't protect this man is going to have a short football career, because he is the most hit quarterback in the league. You have got to protect this man.
And they just got rid of his favorite target.
I think,
like what Hunter said, this man can run. He can run, and he is still the most hit quarterback in the NFL. You got to protect this man. You have to.
I think they dropped the bag on him, because who are the Texans? They're just paying J.J. Watt right now, right? That's it. I mean, it's not like his contract was a few years ago, so he's not making some huge DN contract right now. But like, all they're paying is J.J. Watt. I think they're dropping an absolute bag on him, and I feel bad for Texas, because no first-round pick next year. Because they did give up 2 first-round picks, right? If I'm not wrong. I believe they did give up 2 first-round picks for Tunsil. I could be wrong. I think it was 2. But
I don't know if it was 2. It might have been.
No, they won't have a second round, though.
They need to build something around that young man, because that is a big talent going to waste, who could be up there competing with Mahomes, Lamar.
Easily.
The best.
Easily.
So, on to my teams that I have in. Oh, by the way, Tim said, boo, Hunter, you don't know football. Anyways, I'm sorry, Tim, that you think that. I'm ready for your takes on Tuesday. Tim, you want to listen to this next one? Because my first in, give me Cleveland, baby. Give me the Browns. Let me hear it. Give me Cleveland. Added Hooper. I think Hooper fits their scheme great. A good, fast tight end paired up with, and I'm not making this up, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt. Potentially double tight if David Njoku stays. I said Kareem Hunt, and for some reason left out Bradley Chubb.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Chubb.
You know what? Shout out Bradley Chubb. Shout out Nick Chubb.
It's all
the
Nick Chubb. All the Chubbs. This is a gift now. We're gonna make this the follow thing. Nick Chubb. And they have a good, and a lot of people don't talk about him. He did have an off year last year. The injury. Rashad Higgins. They did draft a new did get Taiwan. So those are 3 fast receivers. His O-line, Baker's O-line didn't hold up a lot last year. Hopefully, they did go in and pick up from the Titans Jack Conklin. I think I said that right. They did pick him up, so I hope that solidifies the line a little bit more, gives him a little bit more time to throw in the pocket, because Baker is not a fast man. He's a big boy. And that man is not.
He can kind of run a little bit.
He can kind of run, but that's not a Watson that you want out of the pocket every play. And, we don't want, I hope that O-line gets a little sealed up and he can stay in the pocket a little bit more, because we definitely don't want him running from being ghosted. I don't know if y'all remember that reference or not, but that was definitely something that happened. Notable additions to the defense that was, already. Defense is pretty solid. You got some young corners, safety. You got a great D end as long as he can quit, hitting people with helmets.
And the new deal, too.
Yeah, and he got a new deal. Here's what I hate about new deals, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. D ends, when they get new deals, it's almost like they don't perform as good the next year. And it might be players in general. I don't know if I just kind of watch players that get new deals more in depth and expect more of them. Like,
players always have their best year going into a contract.
Yeah, and then I guess, they have a slump. I don't know. I guess we'll see. They made additions to the O-line. They made some good notable additions to the defense. Adrian Claiborne, and I honestly forgot about this. I'm sure I knew it. Andrew Sendejo from the Vikings. I think that'll be a good veteran. That ad scared me. I think that'll be a good veteran pickup. So I definitely think the Browns hopefully have the arsenal to at least, and this is me lowballing it because there's no reason this team should not be fighting for the 1 spot. Like even that sorry, I read a comment that I'll get to in a second. Even that defense, which we saw it, can hold Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of defense can do that. This defense is young, fast, and I think they have what it takes to compete for that number 1 spot in that division. And I'm explaining that because my next pick makes this list crazy, and that is the Steelers.
So you're putting in.
I'm putting in the
Ravens,
the Steelers, and the Browns.
Okay.
And that's why one division. That's why I was talking to Rob earlier this week. I don't know if I told you that, Buster. But I had a team with 3 divisions, and this is it. But before I get to that, I forgot to ask y'all's thoughts. Actually, let me get to this comment. How will Baker's dad bod affect their playoff chances? Well, Brad, I did address that. I said my boy is big. And if that O-line not holding up, it's going to be bad in Cleveland again. So what are y'all's thoughts on me putting the Browns in?
I don't like it personally because I've been on the Brown bandwagon.
I like that.
I did it. I was on it last year, and I swore up and down they were going to make it. And let me just be clear really quick. I'm a Longhorns fan. I have always hated Baker. I hated Baker all through his time at OU. When he got to Cleveland, I saw the potential in him, and I jumped on the Cleveland bandwagon. He has plummeted. He fell on his face. He shit the bed, and I'm just not about it anymore. And I just disagree. I know that there's been coaching changes and things going on there. I don't think that they're ready to take that next step. I do agree that they have lots of weapons on offense. I'm just not sure. I'm not sold anymore that Baker can utilize those weapons. I did want to fact check you real quick. I don't want to call you out, but I just want to address. You said you mentioned him running from ghosts, and I think you're referring to
that was Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold was the one who was seeing
God.
Harris on Monday Night Football.
Oh no.
Which is why I doubt any NFL players will ever be mic'd up for ESPN ever again. But I just wanted to address that real quick.
Baker, I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. I guess y'all are kind of, you know what? Y'all both had a shitty year. We're going to boil it down to that. Y'all both had a shitty year and y'all were both running when you shouldn't have been. I am going to disagree with that. I think Baker has great quarterback potential. I think his coach last year. So I think we talked about this at one point, Buster. The coach called a sweep play. What was it? A 3rd and...
It was like 3rd and 12 on the Sunday night game.
And I have never been so mind blown in my life, and my team blew a Super Bowl.
When did Jason Garrett start coaching the Browns?
Yeah.
Last season? I missed that.
It was like insane, and now I'm not saying this coach is going to be any better, but I did know they did come out and say that a lot of people on the team came out and said that I even forgot the coach's name from last year. I'm not going to lie.
Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah. Like I said, I forgot the coach's name from last year because he'll never be back in the NFL. He better not be in the NFL. I don't know if he got signed anywhere, but they said he told Baker basically to force it to Odell, which we saw a lot of. Now, I don't know how much that is the Browns saving face for how much Baker looked towards Odell last year, but he was throwing some questionable things with, and I know we've talked about this before, many people wide open. Like several plays, Landry wide open, maybe for 40 plus yards. And I think he was just trying to force it to Odell last year. And I know me and Buster talked about this before that season even started. It is going to be hard to split that ball between Landry, OBJ, and we talked about Hunt at the time, but now it's going to be Landry, OBJ, Hunt, Cooper, Joku, Chubb. You're going to have to split it between a lot of people that are trying to be the star of the team. Now, hopefully they can get them to come together and actually try to win a Super Bowl. You know, you got to kind of have that mindset.
Yikes, okay.
I mean, that team, like I said, that team is insane. Like, that roster is something you would see on... That would have, a few years ago, that would have been a fantasy lineup. Like, if they were all on different teams, that would have been a fantasy football lineup. My next team, and I know I'm taking a lot of times. I'm going to try to speed through these next... A lot of time, I'm going to try to speed through these next teams. The Steelers, I think with Big Ben being back, I think... hopefully the receiver core stays healthy. I think they can make playoffs because that defense, let's be honest, is insane. They have TJ Watt, who I did put in my notes, I think will be potential defensive player of the year next year. I think he has honestly should have been in the talks for it he's been in the league, 2 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he should have been in the talks for it for the past 2 years. That man,
he should have been a Cowboy, but we're gonna skip.
Yeah, we're gonna skip that right now.
Instead, we wanted tacos.
That's who y'all took over TJ. Oh,
we won't talk about it.
Where's he at
forward.
Now? Miami?
Miami. Yeah.
Move on. What were you saying?
I think they're the most slept on defense in football, honestly, with Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden. I think that is a crazy duo in the secondary. I have them as another team going in. I'm going to go to my next team, which is the Cowboys. We hear this every year. I really want to see them make it because that is another team with a great offense. You have Amari Cooper. So first you have Dak. You have Amari Cooper. You have... Oh, I'm blanking. Who'd they draft?
CeeDee
Lamb. Right? CeeDee Lamb.
Zeke.
I mean, I was going to go with the other receiver. But yes, Zeke.
Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup. I'm rushing through my notes. So Michael Gallup, Zeke. I mean, that is an offense that I don't care how bad the defense plays. That offense should go toe to toe with
With
any of the elite offenses in the NFL. There is no excuse. And I'm going to say this, and Buster, I know you're an Eagles fan. I still have the Eagles making the playoffs. The Cowboys should win this division. There's no reason that this team, and I know this is said every year, there's no reason this team right here, roster-wise, should not win that division. And they have a good coach. You know, I know there's a lot of stuff that's came up about him the past few years about how he wasn't, you know, he was kind of breaking up the locker room in Green Bay. My thought is Aaron Rodgers is toxic, but that'll be a discussion for another time. I think he's a great coach, and I think he can do great things with Dak. I mean, he's coached. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. If that's not a check on the list, I don't know what is. So I definitely have them in. And my last team, this shouldn't surprise anybody, the Buccaneers. This one's short, sweet. You got Brady. You got Gronk, Evans, Godwin. Defensive side, you got Barrett. You got Ndamukong Suh. You got JPP. You got a young secondary. You got a good, solid linebacker core. I'm not going to go too deep in detail on that because, like I said, extended playoffs.
Can't forget about Mike Evans.
Did I not say Mike Evans?
Yeah, he said Chris Godwin, but Chris Godwin, he did.
Mike Evans is on here for sure. But, I mean, Brady could play mediocre football, and this team should
he
make
does.
it.
That's all he does.
I mean, I do agree with that. But especially with extended playoffs, there's no reason this team shouldn't make it. The only one team that would rival them is Atlanta. But, I mean, this roster is, you know, I think more stacked. And I still don't. Y'all know how my stance on Gurley. I think he's, you know, on his way out, unfortunately. So that is my 2 in, or my 2 out, 4 in, 2 out, Texans, Vikings, 4 in, Browns, Steelers, Cowboys, Bucks. So, Rob, Buster, I don't know which one of y'all want to go first.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I'll start with the AFC. My team that I'm taking out in the AFC is the Houston Texans. I agreed with you pretty much on everything across the board. I know one of our favorite listeners, Tim, is not going to be excited about that one, but
yeah, he is not.
I don't see them really having a shot at winning that division. I mean, I'm not going to go back over everything we've already discussed, but I mean, they got rid of the number 1 target there and replaced him with a guy that was a second string running back for the team that they traded from. I don't see them going anywhere. So I took them out. I'll go ahead and stay on the AFC and talk about the teams that I'm putting in. Mm-hmm. So I took out the Texans, and I'm going to add in 2 additional teams. The first one I'm putting in is a team that I think will actually win the division, the Houston, where they won the division last year, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team that went 7-9 last year. They went 5-3 at home, and they did all of that with Jacoby Brissett.
Where's he now?
He's still Brissett. He's still there. He's backing up Philip now.
We think.
So they went 5-3 at home, and we're talking about a quarterback in Jacoby Brissett who's won 12 games in his career, and they won 7 of those last year. So this is a team that is really well rounded. They added Phillip Rivers, who obviously, I mean, he's not an elite quarterback, but he's a really good quarterback. He's had a really good career. Not to mention in the backfield, you're talking about Marlon Mack. And then don't forget they added Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, who is a quick, elusive guy. So I think they've got a really good backfield. They've got T.Y. Hilton and then, some guys at receiver. So that's probably their one weak spot is the receiving core. But throughout Phillip Rivers' career, he's never had like the top receiving core. He's had some really good guys throughout his career, but he's never had an elite receiving corps, and he's been able to produce massive numbers throughout his career. So I know that he'll be able to make that work. And then Doyle at tight end is, I mean, you've got your Travis Kelce's and your George Kittles, and then that next tier down, I would throw Jack Doyle into that group, in that second tier tight end group. So I think they've got a really powerful offense, and I think
They still got Ebron.
They do still have Ebron, yes.
Yeah, so they can do.
So I think they've got some good firepower on offense. Adding Phillip in there, who's a gunslinger, I think he's going to kind of take that offense to the next level. And a team that won 7 games last year, I really see them winning probably 9 or 10 games this coming year. Not 9, probably 10, because I do see them winning that division. Yeah, so that's my first one that I've got in. Is there any thoughts on that? Do you agree? Disagree?
Okay, so I'm gonna disagree, and I do have my thoughts on oh my god, what's the quarterback? I'm tripping. Phillip Rivers.
Phillip?
Yeah, my thoughts on Phillip Rivers, those will come later. I do have a little, when we do our quarterbacks that switch teams in 20, I do have a little segment on him. I just don't believe in Phillip Rivers. I do love his arm. I just feel like he inherited almost the same offense that kind of got, didn't do too well last. That's my thought on that.
They went 7-9 in the Brissett. So do you think Brissett and you don't think Phillip offers anything more than Brissett?
I think Phillip offers better leadership, and I think he offers up more in the locker room. And I think he offers.
You don't think he's a better passer?
Here's my thing with gunslingers. This is a week in, week out thing. So you don't know what you're gonna get with Phillip. So I guess we'll see. Like I said, I think he's inheriting the same team he got. And we were kind of with Phillip, and on the Chargers, we were boom, good one year. Next year, it was like a roller coaster. So it's honestly hard for me to put them in and say they're going to win the division with a quarterback like that. Now, their defense, if they stay fully healthy, I think that will be a bit. I wouldn't have them winning the division still. I would definitely probably put them in at the wild card personally.
So you have the Titans winning the division then?
Yes.
You took Houston out, so you have the Titans.
Yes, I have the Titans winning.
Okay. All right.
But like I said, I think the Titans are sealing it up. That's my personal opinion. I think the Colts definitely have a solid chance at getting the wild card. Obviously not in my scenario, but they're definitely up there. They could definitely lock that wild card spot up if they. Buster, what are your thoughts on?
Well, you already talked about my two teams being out, which were the Texans and the Vikings. And I got to agree with Rob about the Colts being one of the teams in. They're one of my teams in also. Rob, you hit the nail right on the head when you talk about them adding Phillip Rivers, the leadership and everything, and then on top of that, them getting a steal in the draft in Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. You're getting a balanced back, run for power. He's got speed, and then like what we talked about the other night, as far as like Marlon Mack being a free agent the year after this, they're already giving him sign like, hey, we're probably going to go with this young cat in the long run. So like you said, that was a complete steal for them. The defense, that's a young defense, man. And they don't have many big names on there. The really biggest name they got is Darius Leonard. But that's a young defense, and they're hungry. And I think they see this division like right up there for them. And I honestly think they're going to take it this year. And then on top of that, the head coach, Frank Wright.
That man is.
And I know this for a fact because he used to coach. He was the OC for the Eagles whenever we won the Super Bowl that year. dude is amazing in my eyes. Like, you see what he came in and took a team, I just think if that team would have had Andrew Luck last year, no doubt,
I think they won the division. Yeah.
Win the division easily.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And what he came in and did, with that team, having to know that they're going to roll with Jacoby at the beginning of the season, I thought it was pretty great. Even though they did go 7-9, but like you said, Rob, they were 5-3 at home.
Yep.
So, I think that had a lot to do with it too. Them getting Frank Wright as a head coach, especially when old dude from New England reneged on them there at the end. McDaniels reneged on them there at the end and whatnot, and then they went out and got Frank Wright, and it still worked good for them. So they're one of my teams that's in. Another team of mine that's in, Hunter, you already talked about the Bucks, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave that out. Some of y'all may disagree, but I got the Cardinals. And Kyler Murray, Kenyon Drake, D-Hop, Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, go toe-to-toe with any offense in the league.
Score that's points. A hard one to argue with.
The questionable part is going to be, of course, the defense. But I think the defense will be able to hold up. They still got the leading tackler on their team, Jordan Hicks, from last year. They still got him. They drafted the kid out of Clemson. Was it Isaiah? Right? The kid out of Isaiah Simmons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they drafted him, a hybrid player. He can play linebacker. He can play safety. I thought that was pretty big. They still got Pat Peterson. So, I think the defense will be able to hold up, as far as, their offense being able to score some points and keep the defense out of bad situations and everything. So I got the Cardinals in for the simple fact because they got D-Hop, and I think them getting D-Hop just puts them over the top just like that. And it's going to open up so much more for that whole receiving core, just for that offense, period.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I want to agree with that, but that would involve me.
It's definitely going to be tough for them to make it because they still got to beat Seattle and they still got to beat 49ers. You can't forget about the Rams. I'm not taking the Rams out the picture.
Oh, I'm taking them out the picture for you.
Still though, I still think they're going to be tough to beat. That division is pretty much up in the air in my eyes. I think it's up in the air. So
Jamal
I don't
Adams
think it's a
given.
It
too.
I don't think it's a given. I don't think it's a given for either team, but I just got them for the simple fact because of D-Hop.
I did sit there for a while and think, am I really about to take out Seattle and put in the Cardinals? That was a hard one for me. Who is your other teams out, Rob? Or do you have more in the AFC?
My other team in the AFC. So I got Houston out and replaced them with Indy. And then my second additional wild card team for this year that I added is going to be the Denver Broncos.
That's a hot take.
Wait, you put them in?
I'm putting the Denver Broncos in.
That's a hot take.
I'm ready to hear this. Honestly, and I'll touch on this. I'm ready to hear this. I'm ready to hear
I like that. What you got, Rob? I like that.
Okay, so this is a team that went 7-9 last year. I'm liking these 7-9 teams, obviously. They added Melvin Gordon, right? I don't think I need to say much more about that. They definitely upgraded, and I like Phillip Lindsay. I think he's a good running back. They definitely, obviously, upgraded with Melvin Gordon. Cortland Sutton is a young stud. That dude was a beast for them last year. He kind of came out of nowhere. And you're looking at that's their number one target going into this season. They added Jerry Jeudy in the draft. The dude's a speedster. He's a good second target for Drew Lock. Noah Fant is one of those up-and-coming tight ends who had a really good season last year. I think he's poised to have an even bigger year this year. The biggest question mark I would say about them is, can Drew Lock take that next step? Is he going to show enough development to kind of take that leap and take them into the playoffs? Obviously, they're in a tough division because they're not going to win that division. They're going to come in second behind The Chiefs, obviously.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Oakland.
there is no team in Oakland this year.
Oh, Vegas, my bad.
So obviously they're not in the easiest of divisions because they've got to play the Chiefs twice. However, I do think that they'll be able to handle the Raiders and the Chargers. So yeah, I do have them making the playoffs. That's my second team in the AFC. Any thoughts on that?
I like it.
I do.
It.
I like it. They're one of my favorite teams that I want to watch this year, simply for the fact that how they stacked that receiver core in the draft, because they added some ball players, some really fast guys that fell and just they snagged up. That defense has always been, I feel like it's always been a really good defense. We just, haven't had a lot to watch because, they kind of who they have throwing the ball last year before Drew Lock.
Joe Flacco.
Anyways,
come on, man.
I think they have a lot of potential. They're very young, and I could definitely see them getting a wild card spot for sure.
Yeah, I like it, bro. You hit a lot of key points right there. They did upgrade with Melvin Gordon, and then them getting Judy in the draft. That just made that offense a whole lot better. And then, like you said about Noah Fant, a sleeper at tight end. I think he's gonna make the next step as far as becoming not elite. I feel like he can possibly be elite, later on in his career, but he's gonna become a very good tight end and a very good scapegoat too for Drew Lock whenever he gets like in tough situations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Brad came in and commented. He said Garrett Bowles, left tackle, had a shit ton of penalties last year, but he thinks it could have been due to Joe Flacco because Bowles' penalties went down after
when Locke became a starter. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
All right. So, you got another team, Rob?
I was going to jump to the NFC.
Okay.
So that was my AFC stuff.
Gotcha.
I'll try to be quick to get through this, and that way we can continue to move on to Buster and get to the next stuff. But who I'm taking out of the NFC, Buster, you're not gonna like this. I'm taking out your Eagles. We're looking at a team that went 9-7 last year in a division that nobody wanted to win. I mean, they tried. Every team in that division tried not to win it. I'm surprised the team that ended up winning it actually had a winning record. So congratulations on that. But I just don't see the Eagles having enough in the tank. I don't trust that Carson Wentz is going to stay healthy. I mean, I really just don't see them having the strength to get through. I know there's the additional playoff spot this year, but I think that's going to be filled with some other teams coming in. I do have the Cowboys winning that division. So spoiler alert, one of the teams I'm putting in is the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, I'm a Cowboys fan, and maybe I'm a homer, but these are my thoughts. They have a brand new coach, obviously. I think Jason Garrett has been holding them back for 10 years. So thank God we finally took out the trash.
10 years too late.
Yeah, exactly. Dak playing on the franchise tag, I think, is something that could play into the favor of the Cowboys for this season because he's essentially he's in a contract year. He's trying to get that next big deal. He's got a new coach kind of leading the way. He's ready to prove it. He's making that 31 and a half or whatever the tag is this year. And he's ready to prove it so he can get that long-term deal because he wants to be paid like Patrick Mahomes. Regardless of what you think, that's kind of where the market is for quarterbacks. So he's ready to go prove it. So I think that's going to play a huge role in the success for the Cowboys this year. They've got one of the top wide receiver cores in the league. When you talk about you have one of the best route runners in Amari Cooper, you've got Michael Gallup, who is a very good kind of underrated receiver and going into his second year. And then you added CeeDee Lamb. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is probably – he wasn't the first wide receiver drafted, but I think he was probably the best wide receiver in this current rookie class. So those three guys right there, that's not even fair. That's a nice receiving core. I mean, you got Zeke in the backfield, Tony Pollard as the change of pace guy. I think they need to utilize Tony Pollard more than they did last year. Hopefully under this new coaching scheme, they will kind of try to take advantage of all those opportunities. This is a team that's going to score points. They're going to score a ton of points. We're going for 40 burgers every night, every week. So this team is going to score with the best of them. Defense has some holes in it, but when you can score, if they can get up there scoring 30 points a game, they're going to win a lot of football games. So I have them in. I'll jump to the other team real quick that I have in the NFC. I really didn't want to do it. I did not want to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm not a fan of this guy who's leading the team, but I put Tampa Bay in. I know. I'm not a Brady fan. I didn't want to drink the Kool-Aid. I did not want to buy into the hype. But it was hard for me not to put them in when I started looking at teams across the board who I thought was going to win where. Obviously, Tom Brady is a good quarterback. He's a safe quarterback. He's an old quarterback. But I think that he's got some good weapons around him, obviously, with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Gronk coming back, who Madden thinks is still 95 overall. I mean, I don't know about all that, but I think that they're going to be a good football team. This is a team that won a decent amount of games. I think they went 7-9 last year with Jameis Winston.
30 for 30.
I mean, yeah, he's a guy that will throw as many interceptions as he does touchdowns. And that's just kind of been his thing. Their defense was always put in a ton of bad spots because he always turned the ball over with teams having a short field, and they still won 7 football games. So I just, as much as I'm not into the whole Tom Brady thing, I had to put them in just because it just makes a lot of sense with them being a team that won 7 games last year and having a turnover-adverse quarterback. I think they're going to be in.
So what if Brady wins another ring this year?
I don't see that happening.
Oh.
Real quick, I had a fringe, and then I'll pass everything over to Buster. But I had a fringe one, so that was my 2 out were Houston and Philadelphia. My 4 in were Indianapolis, Denver, Dallas, and Tampa Bay. And then I had one that was on the fringe, and I almost wanted to pull the trigger on it, but I didn't quite do it. The more I'm talking about it, I'm talking myself into it right now. I want to pull Minnesota out as well, and I'm going to put in the Arizona Cardinals. So I put in 3 teams from that division: San Francisco, Seattle, and Arizona, all of them making it. I guess the biggest question mark is, can Kyler take that next step? Their wide receiver core is up there in the tops with like Dallas and, the guys who have those really great wide receiver cores with Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald. That is a solid core right there. They added Kenyon Drake last year, which was a nice addition for them. They're in a tough division. I think Seattle will win the division. I think San Francisco will fall off a little bit, have that little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. But I do think Arizona can make it into the playoffs as a wild card team. So that was just the last second addition there.
I did want to put Arizona in so bad, and I'm glad y'all found a way to both make it work. All right, Buster, it's your turn.
All right, so my last 2, and this is I got one for the AFC, and then my other one is for the NFC. My last one out for the AFC is, not the AFC, the NFC All right, this was before the trade. All right, Hunter. This was before the trade. Okay, I had Seattle out. I had them out. But I said before the trade. Before the trade. Okay, now as I was sitting here thinking about this, I had them out, and then now that they done did the trade, I got another team that's out now, and I'm gonna go with Green Bay being that team out. As much as I love Aaron Rodgers, I love him as a football player, but him as a teammate and a person, that's kind of questionable right there. I think that by them drafting, what was it, Jordan Love?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, them drafting him in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might provide some turmoil to that team.
Mm-hmm.
I still think they're going to be good offensively, but defensively, I don't think they're going to be able to hold up because they lost Blake Martinez, and he was the heart and soul of that defense.
How many tackles he had last year?
He was like second in the league in tackles behind Jordan Hicks, I think. Yeah. So I don't think that. I think that defense is going to take a huge downfall. I mean, they really weren't. They weren't that good at first. They were decent, but then with them losing the leading tackler and everything, I think that's going to hurt them tremendously and whatnot. And then the fact on the offensive side of the ball with it's just going to be interesting to see how Rodgers performs this year, knowing that he has a young kid behind him and whatnot. I don't think he'll get snatched, but you know, if he has a terrible year, I think that they may look to move on from him.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers will not be there next year.
All right, and then what I do already? Let's see. Okay, my AFC team in the Chargers. The Chargers.
Okay.
I think, okay, as much as I want Tyrod to be the starter, I really don't think that he will, for the simple fact that Tyrod, he's a very conservative quarterback. He doesn't really take shots, you know, as much as you would want him to.
He lost his job
because Tyrod is just a quarterback. He's just not going to turn the ball over. So, you know, he's just not going to take shots, put him in that situation to do that. But I think that the kid out of Oregon, I think he's going to come in. I think we may see Tyrod get the job taken away from him again as the season goes on. And I think once he comes in, and then you got to look at it like this too. The Chargers, they only just really lost Phillip Rivers. I mean, they still have a pretty good receiving core. They still got, you know, Keenan Allen, who's very, very underrated as a receiver. Mike Williams, I think that if he stays healthy, he can be one of the best in the league. And then Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry is just one step away from being an elite tight end in the league. So the weapons are there. And then Austin Eckler, too, out of the backfield. You know, so, and which he did show that he can run and he can catch at the same time as well. So I think the weapons are there. I think the defense is still pretty legit, as long as guys stay healthy and whatnot. The offense, I still think they're pretty legit, as long as that O-line stays healthy, because I think that was one of their main issues last year was they had a bunch of injuries on the O-line and everything. I think that, you know, just by them getting that kid out of Oregon, I think he can come in. They may roll with Tyrod when the season starts, but I think he'll eventually become the starter. And when he does, I think he'll feel good knowing that he can air it out with the weapons that he has. And then on top of that, you know, he got Eckler out the backfield as protection and whatnot. So I think that they can be a sneaky team in.
I do like that pick. I think that they're not going to turn any heads winning the division. I definitely do see them as someone that could sneak into the playoffs.
And then back to what Rob said about Denver being, you know, a sneaky team, a team that can get in. that could be another division two in the AFC where you could see 3 teams possibly, make the postseason. And then, like I said, that's with this new playoff expansion, I think it's great and everything. And I think we're going to see a bunch of those 7 and 9 teams take that next step, Rob, to possibly make the postseason next year. So, but yeah, so yeah, that's my thoughts. Those are my 4 teams in were the Bucks, the Cardinals, the Colts, and the Chargers. And my 4 teams out were the Texans. Dang, I didn't do this one. My last team out in the AFC was the Patriots. The Patriots. I like that they went out and got Cam, and I hope that he starts next year because we all know I guess Bill Belichick feels a certain way about Stidham. I don't think he'll be the guy.
Cam will start.
I think Cam will start. I hope he does. But I still don't think – I don't know. I mean, it'll be – that division, they'll probably – I don't know. I think the Bucks can – not the Bucks. The Bills can really battle them for that division, that number 1 spot in the division this year because they showed it last year. If I'm not mistaken, didn't the Bills beat the Patriots the second time they played them?
I think they split.
Did they split last year?
I don't know. I was thinking they lost both of them, but they might have split.
Well, just for the fact that they lost, that the Pats lost Tom Brady, I think that the Bills can step up and take that number 1 spot now, which will knock them out. And I think that the Bills will be the only team from that division that makes the playoffs this coming up year. So my 4 teams out are the Texans, the Pats, the Vikings, and Green Bay. So yeah, hint, I think Chicago would win the division over Green Bay. I think so. Because, all right, did that defense take a hit? Did that defense take a hit?
When you said that, I just thought about Mitchell Trubisky in my head.
No, Nick Foles.
I know, but
Nick Foles.
I know.
I would say his nickname, but this is kind of, it may be a little bit too inappropriate.
Oh.
But hey, that defense really didn't take a hit. I think the defense is still pretty legit. So as long as they don't turn the ball over, I still think they'll be in good shape.
Okay.
So what were all your teams that were in and out, Buster?
4 teams in were the Bucks, the Cardinals, the Colts, and the Chargers.
Okay.
And then my 4 teams out were the Texans, the Patriots, Vikings, and Green Bay.
Okay. Well, there's topic 1 down in the books an hour later. I love it. Topic 2. NFL preseason being canceled. When we put this at first, it was on the table, but now it's official. I mean, I'm kind of mixed on it. There's some guys out there that, that's kind of for people to battle for roster spots. There's unfortunately not going to be able to do that this year. I also thought it would give people a good chance, or teams a good chance to figure out how they're going to go about the COVID-19 protocols, what they're going to do. Everything like with fans in the stand wise, I thought it was going to give them a good chance to actually test out like what new equipment they're going to have to use and everything. It was going to give us a chance to, see how the Washington football team jerseys looked sooner than later. But yeah, preseason being canceled, I know some coaches are, they're upset because there are some guys that are going to lose some spots. There are players happy because, I saw some people mad saying that that there are going to be more injuries. Let's be honest, starters might play 2 quarters out of a whole preseason. That's my thoughts on that. I'm iffy. What do y'all think about it?
I think the owners are taking steps in the right direction to meet the players in the middle. It's not really in the middle, but the players obviously had lots of concerns over COVID safety and protocols and things that were going to be in place. I think that, like you said, like the preseason, yes, we love the preseason when it gets here because we're just so starved for football, right? So we just soak it all in. But then we start watching the game, and I mean, 2 possessions into the game, we're bored. We've been missing football all this time, and then all of a sudden we're bored because we don't know anyone that's on that football field. Um, so I like not having the preseason, especially this year, because we don't want an infestation of COVID to take over in the preseason and shut the season down before it even starts. So I'd rather just jump straight into the regular season. Um, I don't know that they have the best approach as far as containing the COVID outbreak. Um, I think the NBA has the best approach on that, but we'll get to that. But or that I am for no preseason this year. The starters rarely play anyways. It does hurt those undrafted free agents, those guys that are trying to make a roster spot. But in a year like this, I think it's the right move.
Buster, what are your thoughts on it?
I just got just 2 thoughts. I did an if so and if not. I didn't even think about the whole COVID part of it and whatnot. I just looked at it as like if the preseason does get canceled, then it would lower the risk of a key starter getting hurt. Because we see it every year. We always see a key starter get hurt every year during the preseason. So it would lower that risk. But it would hurt the chances, like what Rob said, it would hurt the chances of a dude trying to make the roster that was an undrafted pick or whatnot, and he's just trying to, make a roster spot, and it'll hurt his chances. It'll hurt it bad. So that's my thought on if they do cancel it. If they don't cancel it, then of course it'll be vice versa. It would, higher the chances of someone getting hurt and whatnot, but it would still keep that door open for that guy trying to make the team and get one of those last roster spots and whatnot. So that's pretty much all I got on that and everything.
Yeah, so in the end, I think it's a kind of good idea. So I mean, especially with everything going on, and our topic 3 actually pertains to almost the same thing. Well, COVID wise, the New Jersey governor bans all attendance to sports events. I think it's a good idea. It sucks, if you go to games a lot. It sucks for the environment. Actually, I say that. I do watch a lot of UFC. I have been enjoying it without fans. Get to hear a lot more. I guess we'll see how that sounds in the NBA, and apparently in New Jersey, we'll get to hear how that sounds. I think that would be a good step, especially containing COVID to the player, like making sure that they don't have a lot of interactions with people, and making sure that, especially COVID doesn't spike with attendance to where cities get shut down in quarantine again. I think it's a good idea. I honestly think we'll see more governors do this. It doesn't hurt the team a lot money wise, because I think 80. It was either like 80 to 83%, I believe, of their money comes from ad revenue on TV. So to where college makes a lot of money in attendance, the NFL makes a lot of money in ad revenue. Y'all's thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts right off the bat were, who the hell goes to Jets and Giants games anyways? That was my initial thoughts. But I mean, honestly, it doesn't bother me. I didn't expect fans in stadiums this year at all in any sport. And to be quite honest, I'm I'm good just sitting at home watching live sports on the television. Just give me live sports. If we
Yes.
can't go to games this year and it helps stop the spread of COVID so that we can get back to normal next year, sign me up for that. I can watch. I'm glad to sit on my couch and drink a beer and watch a Cowboys game or whatever from the house. I mean, we've got the best seats in the house, anyways, when we're sitting here with these big screen TVs.
Absolutely.
So, sign me up for that. I didn't expect to be able to go to a game this year. I hope to be able to go to games next year, but I'm on board with this.
Oh, you're gonna miss those tailgates.
I am gonna miss the tailgates.
Buster, what's your thought on this, brother?
Not much. I mean, y'all pretty much
Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't write anything down for it and whatnot. So y'all pretty much.
I figured we would all be in agreement on that.
Be in agreement on that.
Yeah, I did figure that. Topic 4: 3 wide receivers that we think are going to have a breakout year. I'm gonna make this fast. I'm going with my first one. I'm going Christian Kirk. Last year he had 709 yards, 10 yards a catch, and 3 touchdowns. I believe he played 10 games last year, so he was hurt. I think he's a solid wide receiver with the additions of D-Hop and already having Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, who are you going to cover? I'm covering the 2 receivers that can go seasons without dropping a pass thrown to him. I think that's going to leave Christian Kirk. I think Kirk's going to play in the slot. I think he's going to be wide open a lot amongst all the linebackers and everything because this man is fast. I don't see a lot of people keeping up with him. They're going to have to – teams are going to really have to game plan to play against him. I think and when I say I think he's going to have a better season, I definitely see him being over 1,000 yards this year. My next receiver, DK Metcalf. Now, he had 900 plus yards last year, 15 yards a catch, and 7 touchdowns. I know it's hard to be a breakout receiver off that your rookie year. I think DK is stepping into that starting number 1 receiver spot. I love Tyler Lockett. I think towards the end of last year, we just saw DK and Russell develop a chemistry that I think is going to flourish into this season. Lockett had 1,000 yards last year. I definitely expect to see Metcalf well over Lockett's yards this year. As I said, I think he will become the number 1 target. And my last breakout, I believe, will be, and I hope I say this right, N'Keal Harry. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
From the Patriots,
Okay.
yeah.
Patriots.
You know me. I will definitely mispronounce something. Last year he had 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, he was injured, rookie year. I think with him having this full off season, he'll be fully healthy. And this is me going in on Cam Newton. Cam Newton every season except one has thrown for 3,000 plus yards. The closest he came to going above 3 was his 2015 season. I think he threw for 38,000. A lot of people see him he had taken a step back. His passing, I think he had a terrible receiving core in Carolina that didn't really fit the way he plays. And with having Bill Belichick, I think they will have a perfect scheme for him. I'm not going to say he's going to have over 1,000 yards. I definitely think I will see Harry with N'Keal Harry. I'm going to say that because that sounded very weird. With at least over 800 yards. Those are my. It's weird call. Yeah, I think Harry's gonna have this many yards. I think he's gonna have over 800 yards this year. So my 3 breakout receivers again: Christian Kirk, DK Metcalf, and N'Keal Harry. Y'all have any thought? Well, actually, I'm gonna let y'all just get to y'all's picks because that will be y'all's thoughts on that.
Okay.
All right, Rob.
All right. So my first one. I hesitated to put him on the list because I kind of feel like he had a breakout year last year. But I did leave him on the list because he didn't start the year last year as the number 1 wide receiver, and that guy is Cortland Sutton. He started the year last year behind Emmanuel Sanders, obviously, who went over to San Francisco. And then he kind of started to have a breakout year after Emmanuel Sanders was gone. He did end up in the year with 72 receptions and 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns, which are really big numbers, which is why I hesitated to put him on the list as having a breakout year. The only reason I did is because he did that with being the number one for only about half a season, a little more than half a season. I do think that this is going to be a solid number one receiver in the NFL for years to come. And I think this is the year he's going to kind of solidify that. I see him getting close to 100 receptions this year, maybe around 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. So I think he's going to have a big year, which is the reason why I put him on the list. My second one is a guy on your list, Christian Kirk. I agree with you in every facet there that he's going to see a lot of targets because I think D-Hop's going to draw a lot of that double team. Fitzgerald obviously is going to draw some coverage because that guy has just been a beast for years. Dude doesn't drop the ball. Speaking of dropping the ball, I think this might be the receiving core that drops the fewest balls in the NFL this year. These guys have unbelievable hands. But Christian Kirk, you spoke to, he had 709 yards last year and 3 touchdowns. I see him getting close to 1,000 yards this year and doubling touchdowns up for about 6 touchdowns. The last guy on my list, this is a guy who had incredible numbers, given the low number of receptions he had. The production he had from that is incredible, and I think he's poised to have a really big year this year. It's A.J. Brown for the Titans. Ryan Tannehill.
I forgot that.
Ryan Tannehill is obviously, he's a good quarterback. He didn't pass a ton, especially in those playoff games. He didn't throw for 100 yards in either one of their playoff games, but he can throw. I mean, this is a guy that can move the ball around. I think they were really comfortable running the ball mostly last year. And when you have Derrick Henry who can blame you for that. But I think they're ready. They just signed him, gave him that contract. I think they're ready to maybe open up the offense a little bit more. They still have Derrick Henry pounding the rock. So I see A.J. Brown having a huge year because last year he had 52 receptions, which isn't a lot. But he had over 1,000 yards on those 52 receptions. So he was getting 20 yards per catch. He had 8 touchdowns, 52 catches and 8 touchdowns. This is a guy that is going to be a stud if they open up that offense and he continues at this level. So, I mean, I see him going for 1,500 yards and possibly 10 touchdowns this coming year. So I think this is a guy who, out of everyone on my list, is probably going to have the biggest transformation going into this year if the Titans will open up that offense.
It'd be a huge jump, but I do agree with that. I do think that is a great pick. Buster, who we got?
Well, y'all already hit on the main guy, and that's Christian Kirk.
I knew we were all three going to have him.
I'm not even going to get deep in on that one because y'all already did. So I'm going to move on to my next guy. Rob, you hit home when you said A.J. Brown. But I actually have 4, but I put 2 together and whatnot. And the reason why I put these 2 together because I feel like they kind of had the same season. You know, I feel like they kind of had their breakout in the same moment and whatnot. And I think that's A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel. Even though Deebo's going to start the season hurt, he showed last year that he could be a number 1 guy and not just, you know, a number 1 guy out there just catching balls. You know, you can use Deebo in so many ways, you know, jet sweeps, you know, misdirection plays, everything. I mean, he's a do-it-all type of guy, you know, when it comes to being a threat on the offensive side of the ball. So I think him and AJ made a tremendous leap last year, both during the second half of the season. AJ, you see that he made his leap whenever Tannehill became the starter full-time. He did have a good game whenever Mariota was still the quarterback, but I think that was just that one game, and he didn't break out again until Tannehill became the starter full-time. And whenever he did become the starter full-time, he just took off, and he helped that offense out tremendously. He Derrick Henry created a lot for him, you know, them having a great run game and them having to bring that safety up in the box and have him in a lot of one-on-one situations over the top. The guy is fast. So like Rob said, he had 20 yards per catch. So, I mean, dude is a deep threat. So I think that him and Debo both are going to have tremendous seasons this year. They're going to take that next step into becoming the main guy. And my third guy, and we already talked about this a lot the other night, was McCole Hardman, receiver for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to Tyreek Hill, fast, special teams guy, and you can use him in so many ways. Like he's a, misdirection, jet sweep type of guy. I feel like Mahomes is going to have a field day with those two, plus Travis Kelce. I think that Sammy Watkins is going to take a back seat to Hardman and whatnot because of his past health issues and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Hardman is going to take a big leap next year as well and become. I think he's going to have a bunch of all-purpose yards.
Mm-hmm.
Put it like that. So he's going to change the game on special teams, and he's going to change the game on the offensive side of the ball as well. So that's my three: Christian Kirk, two together, A.J. Brown and Debo Samuel, and then McCole Hardman.
I like it. So our topic 5, which is, I've been waiting for this topic, quarterbacks that switched teams in 2020. It's our top quarterback that we think is going to do the best in 2020 that switched teams, right? Okay, well, I wrote a little synopsis about all of them. So Phillip Rivers, I think he switched teams. I think he really just inherited what he had before. So I'm not really putting him at my top. I think he's gonna, be the same Phillip Rivers. It's gonna be kind of hit or miss. Teddy Bridgewater, I know he went undefeated. He went undefeated as a starter. He lost one game. It was one of those.
I think he went undefeated.
I think he went undefeated.
Because he didn't really technically start that game against
that team carried him, and you cannot disprove me on that. I will not allow it. I think now Teddy, I think, has great potential. He just inherited a mess of a team that is currently rebuilding around a great running back. I don't have him at the top of my list. I think he will do great things in Carolina. Tom Brady undoubtedly inherited the best team out of everybody on this list. But as, me and Rob will agree, I think he's an average quarterback that was on with an amazing coach, an amazing team, with amazing coordinators. My number one pick is Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton just inherited the best quarterback head coach of all time, an outstanding offensive coordinator. And as from his press conference, which is very true, that offensive coordinator now has a whole new playbook that he can run because, Brady ran like a 5.7. So you got a quarterback that can get out of the pocket. So let's see what plays he can draw up. And it's going to be insane seeing it's going to be a whole revamped offense in New England. I think Cam said he's done being humble. And this might be a hot take. I think we're about to see a different form of MVP Cam Newton. I think this is going to be his year back. I think he hopefully had enough time for that foot to heal. I think he is throwing for 4,000 yards this year. And I think he is going... I didn't put how many touchdowns I think he's going to have, but he's going to run for some touchdowns, and it's going to be fun football to watch again when you watch Cam Newton. So that's my top pick, Cam Newton. I think he's going to be the best quarterback that switched teams in 2020.
Okay. So for me, Cam came in second place as far as the quarterbacks who switched teams, the success I think they're going to have. He was kind of that fringe guy. I was going back and forth. My biggest concern with him was injury history. can he get back to that MVP style Cam Newton that everybody loves? I don't know. I do know that he's got a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal offensive coordinator, and they're going to put him in a position for great success. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. And if he does, I do think he might have the most success of the quarterbacks who are switching teams. But I left him just off in second place there. Real quick, the other two guys that I didn't have coming in first, Teddy Bridgewater. I think, like you said, they have a phenomenal running back. He's the core of that team. They do have, in my opinion, an outstanding coach in Matt Rule that they brought over from Baylor. This is a guy who went down to Baylor and took over the team right after all of the sexual assault scandal and stuff going down there. They won one football game. He goes down there and takes them almost to the playoffs last year. I mean, he's a phenomenal football coach. He's a phenomenal leader, but he's brand new to the NFL. So there's going to be some growing pains there. And then Tom Brady, also I left off of the list. I just don't think he's a great football. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's good. I think he's had a lot of success. That's obvious. That speaks for itself. I think he's very average quarterback. He's turnover adverse. He hangs on to the ball. He's very safe, and it's led to obviously 6 rings, which is great for him. I just don't know that I can put all my faith in them having that same level of success down in Tampa. That I think Bill Belichick played a huge role in the success that he's had in his career. So I left him off. The guy I think is going to have the most success that switched teams is Philip Rivers. Obviously, I put them winning the division for the AFC South, which I don't understand why they're in the AFC South, but that's a topic for another day. But just the alignment is really strange. But I do have them winning. I think Philip is a really good quarterback who I think we all agree that if Andrew Luck did not retire last year, the Colts would have won the division. Does everyone agree with that?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So,
Absolutely.
and so it was a downgrade to go to Jacoby Brissett, who was a serviceable quarterback. Now I think they've stepped back up. I don't know that, Andrew Luck and Philip Rivers, I don't know that I can say one is better than the other. Obviously, one has had a much longer career than the other one did. Philip being the one who's had the great long career. I think now this is a similar team to last year. They've upgraded at quarterback. I think Philip is ready to win. He's in that Tony Romo camp where he's been a really good quarterback for a really long time, but he hasn't won when it counts. And I think that's kind of hanging over his shoulder, and I think he's ready to win. So that's why I think he's going to have the most success.
I like that. Buster, what are your thoughts on this?
I really only noted one, and I think we all know the obvious one on that one. You said it, Hunter. He inherited the best team out of all this, and I think that's Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
But I am right there with you guys. I'm not really a big Brady fan, but you got to give respect where it's due. He's, like Rob said, he's had a lot of success, and that speaks for itself. And I simply put the reason why I think he would have the most success is because of the weapons that's already there and everything. I mean, like y'all said before, all he has to have is just a mediocre season, and that team can pretty much get to where they want to be easily, with just him playing mediocre with the weapons that they got over there. I mean, you got 2,000-yard receivers from last year. You're getting your boy back out of 1-year retirement. So that's going to help out tremendously. I don't know if they still got OJ Howard.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that may play a big help in that also. I mean, obviously the weakest position on that team is definitely the running back position, but I feel like you can win in this league with a running back position by committee. So maybe that won't be a huge issue and whatnot. But like y'all said at the beginning, all he has to do is just play mediocre, and that team can go on and possibly win a championship next year and whatnot. So I just had one, the obvious. So that's pretty much all I got on that.
I think that we all had great answers. And I think, honestly, it's just a toss-up because any of these quarterbacks could literally go off at any moment. So I think, can't really be wrong on that one. But I really am ready. That's one thing I will be watching closely this year is how everybody performs, which teams. And I think it's going to be a good race. And we'll probably honestly talk about it more throughout the season. We'll probably come back to this. But that does wrap up our NFL section of the sports cast. Now we're on to the NBA. Our first question in the NBA is teams that we think benefited or got hurt from the time off. I don't have a lot of notes on this one. I think my three teams that I'm going to put in are the Clippers, obviously. Kawhi didn't play many games, or he was actually playing a game, being off a game. He was like back and forth. And PG, they were kind of rotating in and out, both dealing, Kawhi's been dealing with an injury for the past few years for some reason. PG also dealing with injury. I think this time off helped the Clippers tremendously. Hopefully those guys come back full form, looking great. The Knicks lost 4 players to COVID testing. 2 are currently back. 2 are still in quarantine. 2 are actually big players. You have Harrison Barnes still out. Buddy Hield has returned. Jabari Parker has returned, and Alex Lenz is still out. De'Aaron Fox did sprain his ankle in practice, unfortunately. That is a big loss for them. Hopefully he can get better up and back soon. And the Magic had a few injured players that actually returned. So that's actually good for them. That time off helped them a lot for a good playoff run team. Rob, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, so you just hit, did you hit who it hurts?
So I kind of just threw in a bunch of teams in there. I think it really just hurt the Kings or it really just hurt. You know what? COVID hurt the Kings. The time away didn't really hurt the Kings. I couldn't really find a team that really hurt with the time away, but I am interested on what you got.
Okay, so the teams that it helped, I think, is everybody. I mean, going into a playoff run with this much rest, I mean, that's something that you wish you could have every year, right? Maybe not quite as much rest. I do think that specifically it helps the Lakers the most because LeBron, obviously one of the top players in the league, but he is getting older. This is a guy that, I mean, how old is he now? 36, 37?
34?
Whatever.
One of them.
I don't think he's that young.
He might not be. No, you know what? I think Curry. We'll get to it. We'll figure it out.
This is a guy who needs the rest going into a playoff run. So for that specifically, I think the Lakers are in a really good spot to be able to have this time off for LeBron to be able to rest so he can get back on the court and solidify his dominance and be the top player that he is. Who I think it hurt the most. And just to be clear, I think everybody benefits from the extra rest going into
Absolutely.
playoffs. But I think the Thunder probably hurt the most out of this time off. This is a team that was 8-2 in their last 10 before the NBA shut down. Mm-hmm. They're a 5 seed. They were only 4 games out of the 2 seed, mm-hmm. and only about 2.5 or 3 games out of the 3 seed. So this is a team who was hot, 8-2, and then NBA just shut down on them. So they were running hot, and now they just kind of have cooled off. Again, they're benefiting from the rest like everybody else, but this is a team who could have been moving up the rankings there, going down the home stretch of the season, and it got pulled out right from underneath them.
And they were definitely they were definitely one of the teams that were predicted to be at the bottom. So it was, it was really a hot streak for them to be up that high. And I know they were definitely playing off that adversity.
Yep. Agreed.
Did you have anything else on the topic?
That's everything I had on the time off.
Okay, okay. I couldn't agree more. I think everybody did benefit from it because, I know those knees start to hurt, especially when you get older. By the way, LeBron is 35.
35, okay.
Yes. Buster is not with us at the moment. Buster did not have much on the NBA topic. He is just ready for us to get to baseball. So topic 7, will the bubble work? And that is funny because the NBA update I got a little over an hour ago. But I'm going to hop right into this. I don't think the bubble's going to work. You have a lot of young guys, a lot of young men, which I'll get to, confined to themselves, can't go out of the bubble. You're not supposed to do whatever young guys do. A lot of rookies playing, especially you got a lot of people playing that are young. I don't know the specifics. Let me see if my ESPN update is still here. It unfortunately is not. Actually, I think it was Lou Williams, not a young guy, so I guess it's gonna cater to everyone. Is getting investigated because he left the bubble to go to a strip club. So that's automatic quarantine. I'm not sure how many days the quarantine is. I just think we've already had people leave to go get food out of the bubble. They've had it postmated. They've had it. They've had they have a hotline to report people for breaking the rules. So obviously stuff is going down. Now I hope it gets cleaned up. I hope that the season finishes because what's going to result from this is someone's going to do something stupid and someone's going to get a star player COVID. They're going to give him COVID, and that's going to really hurt someone's season. And I'm not like it could be a not star player. Then you have to go through of how are they going to handle filling that roster spot? What if like 4 people on a team get it? What if a whole team almost contract? What are they going to do? Just fill it with free agents? They're going to have to get tested. I want to see this season finish. I think we will see it finish. I just think the bubble is going to be a project, and I mean it's going to be an adventure. Like I said, and I said a lot of young guys because young guys, this is like rookies and stuff, second year. They're going to want to have that full NBA experience. They're going to want to go out. They're going to win a big game. They're going to go out party with people. That's going to turn into exposure. So I think it's going to be a long road. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually think the bubble will work. I think it's the most successful approach to a sports return that any league has offered up. So since they've been in the bubble, they've tested over 350 guys, and they've had 0 positives since they got into the bubble. Prior to, there were some NBA guys who did test positive. I do agree that young guys, they're going to want to go out. They're going to want to party. They're going to want to,
go to that gentleman's club Lou Williams was at.
They're going to want to do things like that. My hope is that they will put that on hold for what is it going to take, month and a half stretch.
I did put that. I think it would take about almost if it goes to all game 7s, probably like 2.
Okay. One thing is when you're eliminated, you're out of the bubble. So if you just really want to party, just lose. Especially if you're playing the Mavericks, just go ahead and lose.
Yeah, just go ahead and lose
and get out of there. So that way you can go home and go party.
Oh man.
But I mean, I do think it's the most successful approach. What I think, in comparison, the MLB, they have a big problem. I'm really worried about their season finishing. They did, take measures and changed up the schedule, and they're doing things differently than a normal year, like everyone is. But they have a problem with their testing. For whatever reason, they don't have rapid result testing, which is blowing my mind. Why would you not have that? So Juan Soto tested positive for COVID on opening day on Thursday, and he was left out of the lineup for the Nationals. The problem is, it's great. It's not great that he tested positive, but it's great that they saw he was positive. They took him out of the lineup, and he's being isolated. That's great. That's what you want to do. The problem is he tested on Tuesday, and his results came back positive on Thursday, but he was with his team on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I don't understand why they're not using rapid testing. They have tests available where you can have results in 20 to 30 minutes. Why the MLB has decided that they don't want that? They're using snail mail testing apparently. That is what's going to shut the MLB down if it happens, is because these guys who do test positive are still interacting with their teammates prior to getting the results, and that's what's going to cause the spread throughout the MLB.
Yeah, I didn't know that, and that's absolutely crazy to me, just because the NBA is developing a ring that will show COVID symptoms. Now, I don't know how far along that is. I don't know if that's something they're actually using this year. I do know I saw an article on it, but that's insane that they don't have instant, 2 days. He could have literally infected that whole team.
The whole team.
That's absolutely insane.
It's absurd.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Especially the MLB, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't think I am, because, man, they pay people a lot of money. Probably the most wealthiest, league. Would you say that?
Number 2 behind the NFL.
Okay.
The NFL has all the money.
Man.
And the MLB has the second most.
Yeah,
the problem is, the reason the MLB players get paid as if their league makes the most money is because their Players Association did smart deals. The NFL Players Association has always been terrible at bargaining. Their collective bargaining agreements, they always give way too much to the owners. That's the reason you would think that the MLB makes the most money, because their players make the most money, but really it's just because their players are smart and they've negotiated great collective bargaining agreements. That's totally off topic, but yes, MLB. If the MLB is the second largest in the local American pro sports leagues as far as revenue.
Yeah, that's still mind blowing. So yeah, Rob thinks the bubble is gonna work. I think the bubble is not gonna work. I hope Rob is right. I desperately hope Rob is right, because, like I said, we all want to see sports back. Which will lead us to our last topic in the NBA, our predictions for the year, which they are going off of post or pre-COVID shutdown. They will not be counting the post-COVID shutdown games, which are going to basically, fix up some seeding issues. Hopefully letting some more people that were right there on the cusp get in the playoffs. So I'll go ahead and kick it off. I think y'all know this was coming. LeBron James MVP. 35 years old. 25 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, and 10 assists. And, honestly, it was hard for me to pick LeBron over Antetokounmpo. I just think, here's one thing, the NBA does not like to give out back-to-back MVPs. They just don't. And this is the second closest person to Antetokounmpo who I think deserves it. And they did split in the season, with the second time James coming out over Antetokounmpo on that. So I definitely have LeBron, obviously runner-up, Greek Freak, 29 points per game, 13 rebounds, 5.8 assists. Also, LeBron plays in a much harder conference because, let's be honest, Giannis and them locked up that conference, as soon as they possibly could. So yeah, I have LeBron at MVP. Defensive Player of the Year. This was another hard one for me. It could have went both ways. I have Anthony Davis, and just because the blocks, he averages 7.1 defensive rebounds, 1.5 steals, and 2.4 blocks. As to my runner-up, again, Antetokounmpo, 13 defensive rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. I could definitely see them giving that to Greek Freak because I feel like that would make it easier to give them LeBron MVP. Because I definitely think Antetokounmpo deserves, one of those. And it's hard for me. When I made this list, it was hard for me to justify someone from the same team winning MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. But I think that's how it's going to end up this year. Rookie of the Year, I don't even need to go in on this. Ja Morant.
That's easy.
If they give it to what's his name? Zion, it's going to be a robbery. Literally would be a robbery. Sixth Man of the Year, Lou Williams. Again, he did have a teammate who I think could have came as a close second. I cannot pronounce his first name. His last name's Harrell, I believe. I don't think they're going to give a big man Sixth Man of the Year because big men get disrespected in every league. Definitely Lou Williams, Sixth Man of the Year, coming in 18 points per game, 3 rebounds, 5.7 assists. Most Improved Player, Brandon Ingram. I love this pick because he went from averaging this last year 18.3 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 0.5 steals to this year averaging 24 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. That's an improvement in every category. And Coach of the Year, Billy Donovan, who is OKC's head coach, because man, they were supposed to be dead last in the NBA, and they, like Rob said earlier, could potentially have been a 2 seed, 3 seed right there, which is insane from the way they were getting slandered in the preseason.
Yeah, they're sitting at a 5 seed right now, but they're only a couple games out of being a 4, 3 seed.
So, Rob, how do your thoughts on this stack up?
So I only jotted down MVP and Rookie of the Year stats. I didn't go too in depth with every category. Rookie of the Year, I'm total agreement with you. That's Ja. I mean, I don't think there's no one else. There's no one else that can win that award. You can't give it to Zion. I mean, there's just no. So that one's in the books. I'll go to Vegas today and put the mortgage on him winning it. He has the best odds, so I won't win too much. But I mean,
absolutely,
that's a given. MVP. This is where I was torn. I think Giannis is going to win it. Mm-hmm. I think he's the guy that's going to take it. 30 points, 30, 14, and 6 is his average stat line. And then right on the outside, you have LeBron, which I also have 26, 8, and 11 is what his averaging. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Giannis is also in that Defensive Player of the Year category, which I think ups his chances for that MVP category because of the just all-around stat lines. A sleeper pick.
I know MVP. Exactly what you're about to say, and I was going to touch on it, and I'm so ready for this.
I'm a homer, right?
No.
I am. I know I am. But I think Luka Doncic is a sleeper for MVP. You touched on LeBron playing in the best conference, mm-hmm. Obviously. Mm-hmm. Luka's playing in that same conference.
Absolutely.
Luka's got a better stat line than LeBron.
Absolutely.
He's averaging 29, 9, and 9. He's mm-hmm. borderline averaging a triple-double. And we're talking about a dude that's 21 years old. He turned 21 years old in the middle of the season. Mm-hmm. This guy is incredible, and I'm not predicting him to win the MVP this year, but he is going to be in the top 3 at voting for that.
Absolutely. I did want to address that while we wait on Buster. Like he said, Luka averaging 28 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists, which honestly is insane.
I rounded up, so I had him at.
Oh yeah. I was about to say you can absolutely round up. But for him in his second year to be averaging
21 years old
on a team that was supposed to have, they just started to rebuild their team, and man, they got a ball player, and what a ball player to get after letting Dirk, retire after, he couldn't walk anymore. Got every last bead of sweat out that they could. This man is amazing. The only reason I have him getting looked over is because 1, it's LeBron. 2, it's the reigning MVP, Giannis. 3, he did have some stints where he was hurt. I think that hurt him a little bit, missing some games. I definitely think that he is deserved. Like if they came out and said he won MVP, I would not be disappointed. Because LeBron could go down. I'll say this, LeBron could go down. I think they will still lose games, but they have AD to fall back on. Giannis could go down. I think they'd be in a terrible spot if Giannis went down. Luka could go down. Luka did go down. They rallied around that. They had Porzingis, which I'm not going to give all the credit to Do what?
I'm sorry. I was going to say Porzingis shined. I mean, it was an all-around team effort, but Porzingis, you kind of saw him take that leadership role when Luka went down and really shine. But go ahead and continue the thought you were on.
I was going to say Porzingis did stand out and shine, but that did not he was not alone on that. They did have a few more people throughout those games that came out and put up some great stats. But man, when Luka's there, it's a whole different ball game, pace on the floor. And I honestly would not be upset if they came out and said that he would be the league MVP. Now, I don't think it'll happen, but I do think Luka will be MVP in these coming years. And the MVP race, honestly, once LeBron, retires, once KD gets up there in age, Curry's getting up there. It's going to obviously KD and Curry are about to be in their like stint of kind of like what LeBron's at. They're in their 30s. Man, the young kids in the NBA, or young men, you got Luka, Morant, you got Zion. It's just insane, the talent pool. I think MVP these next coming years it's gonna be I don't think when LeBron leaves, he's not leaving the league in bad shape for someone to step up and take that spot. So that is it for the basketball topic, and I think Buster is about to be back. I have contacted him, and there's the man, the myth, the legend. So on to the MLB, long-awaited MLB. I know y'all have waited all night to talk about this. Our first topic, which I'm going to let y'all talk about first because I am new to baseball. So I'm going to learn as we go. The first topic in the MLB, what was it? What we think about the 60 game, what we think our predictions for the 60-game season. Yep. All right, Rob, I'm going to let you start that one off.
Okay, so the 60-game season, this is something like we've never seen before. In a sport like baseball, baseball is a game of averages, and averages play out and make sense over the long term. In the short term, though, they don't always make sense. Someone can bat 250 on the season, which is not a great batting average. It's a serviceable batting average for the average player. But that same guy that batted 250 can have a 30, 40, 50 game stretch of batting 350, but then another stretch of batting 200. So when you shrink the baseball season like this, you there's really, for me, there's no way of predicting what's going to happen. Some of your best players, they go through slumps of 15, 20, 30 games where you could see guys like, and I'm not predicting this by any means, but you could see top tier guys like Mike Trout having a terrible season because for the first 25 games of the year, he was just in a slump and battling through and trying to get ready. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the season, you look back and you say, "Why did Mike Trout bat 230? Makes no sense. That's not something you would expect to see." Then again, you could see a guy who's kind of a second tier player who would normally bat 250 in a good year, and at the end of the season, you're looking at him and you're like, how did this guy bat almost 300? It's because he was hot at the right time. So in a short season like this, it is completely unpredictable, and that's what to me is so appealing about this season. Yeah, it sucks that we're not probably going to see what would have played out in a normal year, but the excitement for me is that you're going to see something that is nearly unpredictable. I can't even begin to say who I think would win MVP or anything like that because we just saw just on opening night Juan Soto tested positive for COVID and was pulled from the lineup. so I mean, Buster, chill. He was pulled from the lineup, and this is a guy who has MVP potential, and now he's out for probably 6 or 7, 8, 10 games, and you can't win MVP anymore. If you test positive for COVID this season, which is very possible that it will happen to different guys throughout the year, you're not winning MVP. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Mike Trout, who I think we would probably all agree is the best player in baseball right now. I don't care who you are. If you test positive for COVID, you're going to miss anywhere from 5 to 10 games probably, and you're just not going to win MVP in a 60-game season if you're missing 10 games. So it's extremely unpredictable, and for that reason, it's super exciting to me. I'm not one of those guys that's going to put an asterisk on this season. You kind of probably need to put an asterisk next to the stat lines because 20 years from now, when you're looking back at who won MVP, you're going to wonder why the MVP of the league only had 15 home runs. That's not going to make a lot of sense. So you want to put an asterisk for those purposes. But I think it's going to be a fun and exciting season, and I'm looking forward to it. Just for quick reference, the season now, everything is 2.7 times more important than it is in a normal year. If you lost one game, you really lost 2.7 games. You lost almost 3 games just by losing a game. That makes every game incredibly important. What it would look like for MVP stats, if you hit 15 home runs this season, that would be like having a 41 home run season in a normal year, which is a good year for home runs. It's not the top of the line, but that's something that is MVP caliber stuff as long as you have the other stats to back it up. And 40 RBIs this season will be the equivalent of 108 RBIs in a normal season. Kind of 100 RBIs is kind of that benchmark of separating the average guys from the more top tier. So that's kind of a stat line you could be looking at. A guy who bats maybe 300 with 15 home runs and 40 RBIs could be the MVP of the league, which is weird and exciting all at the same time.
Buster, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, like what Rob said, of course, with the 60-game season and all that, you're gonna see guys, it's all just, depending on who can get hot at the right time and whatnot. This is going to be a very, very unpredictable season. I'm pretty sure that most would agree that we're going to get a Yankees Dodgers World Series, but like what Rob talked about, it's just all about who can get hot at the right time and whatnot. And like you said about certain players having like a 20, 30 game stretch where they're just in a slump. And, with this season right now, especially if he's your star player, you can't afford to have that type of slump. Yeah, because it'll kill you, in the long run and whatnot. So, and then another thing too that really is going to catch my eye during the 60 game season is the fact that, during 162 game season, you see players, take numerous of days off and everything, just to get, back right and get ready for, a lengthy series and whatnot. With the 60 game series, I don't think players are gonna have afford to do that in this thing because it'll hurt the team and whatnot, then taking them out the lineup and whatnot, or taking them off the field and whatnot, and it'll hurt the team and everything. So I think that's gonna be huge and whatnot, seeing a bunch of guys just playing this 60 game season just all the way throughout, no days off whatsoever, unless you have a day off, where you're not playing a game, like, as a team and whatnot. But, if the team's playing and you're taking the day off, you really can't afford to do that right now. So, as Rob said, I'm not going to be the guy that puts an asterisk on this season because I think it's going to be a very interesting season with all the rule changes. And then, of course, later on in the segment and whatnot, we're going to talk about the playoff expansion and whatnot. That's going to be, very exciting to see, teams that, can be, in a regular 162 game season, be around that 80 win, section and whatnot. You see them make a jump in this playoff. And then, like I said, if they're hot at that time, they can come in and make that playoff expansion and whatnot, and then they can just get hot at the right moment and maybe be a surprise, championship team, like how the Nats were last year and everything. So, I'm not going to put an asterisk on it. You can put an asterisk on the stat lines and everything, like you said, Rob. But I'm just excited to see how everything's going to play out with everything, 60 game season and with the new rules and everything. And that's pretty much all I have on there right now. I think it's going to be good. It's different for baseball, but, if you're really a baseball fan, this shouldn't bother you at all. Just as long as we got it back on live TV and everything, we can just sit, watch it in the comfort of our own home. And, I just take it any way they can give it right now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the only take I can have on it, is that it's going to be interesting. I think this, honestly, 60 games gives, like y'all were saying, it gives a lot of teams that weren't going to be up there a chance to be up there, because you never know they could get hot, and someone that was supposed to, would have been up there on a regular season could get a slump early. If you're starting to slump early this season, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt. Yeah.
But if a team, that you wouldn't expect to be up there starts off hot, they're gonna have a better chance of getting to playoffs. And which leads us to our next question about okay-ish teams making playoffs, extended playoffs. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Man, I love it. I love it for this year specifically. And I may love it for every year. I haven't decided yet. But I do love it for this year because of the fact that you're only playing 60 games. And we talked about how you can go in a slump, and that in a normal season, the law of averages plays itself out, and the good teams rise to the top. They have bad slumps, but they still come out on top. In a shortened season, I think that expanding the playoffs is the right decision because it's going to allow for those slumps that are going to happen, they're bound to happen. It's going to help balance the playing field. Then when you get to the playoffs, you're going to have more teams than normal. It's going to look weird, but it's going to be exciting. And playoffs generate revenue. Every sport's looking how to replace that fan revenue. The MLB just did it by adding all these additional playoff teams. So I mean, it's going to be weird, but I'm excited to see it. I mean, the MLB added 6 playoff teams. That's incredible. Normally you have 5 per league. Now you're going to have 8 teams per league. You're going to make it. So the format, what it's going to look like is all first place and second place teams in every division are making the playoffs. So there's 3 divisions per conference. So you've got first and second in each of those. That's your first 6 teams. And then you have 2 additional wild cards on top of that. So out of those 2 wild cards, that's going to be a 3rd place team, most likely, from 2 of the additional divisions. So you're looking at, I mean, it's very possible, or not possible, it's probable that there is going to be first, second, and third in 2 divisions are going to make the playoffs, which is incredible. It's 16 out of the 30 MLB teams are going to be in the playoffs. So you're looking at more than half the league will be in the playoffs. As a Rangers fan, I fully support this move because this opens the door for us to get in. I did have the Rangers as a borderline team going into the regular season back in March before all of this happened. In a full normal season, I probably had the Rangers coming out around 78 to 80 wins, which was a team that wasn't going to make the playoffs with that record under normal playoff seeding and everything. But that's so borderline that they could turn 3 or 4 of those losses into wins, and all of a sudden you're looking at a team that won 85 games and they could make a wild card. So I had them as a fringe team. Then I still had them as a fringe team going into this shortened season. I see them as a team that could win 30 games, go 30 and 30, maybe 31, 29, somewhere in that range, and make the playoffs. But now with the expanded playoffs, I'll be really disappointed if the Rangers miss the playoffs. So for me as a Rangers fan, I think it's phenomenal. I think it's phenomenal as a baseball fan in general because by the time we get to October, assuming we make it there and COVID doesn't shut the season down and there's not a second large outbreak, I think the playoffs are going to be really fun and exciting. The playoff rounds are basically going to be a 3-game series in the first round. And the seeding is 1 through 8. And it's going to be like 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, so on and so on. And all the home teams, or all the higher seeded teams, are going to be the home team, and they're going to host all 3 games. There's not traveling back and forth. So for being the higher seeded team, you get the advantage of playing only in your ballpark for that whole series, which I think is a nice advantage given the weird circumstances of the playoffs this year. I think that's a nice advantage to give to the higher ranking teams to be able to host that. I mean, there's not going to be fans there. I don't see anything changing to where we have fans by that point. But to be able to play in your own ballpark that you're familiar with, I think that's a nice advantage. So I'm excited. What do you think, Buster?
I like it too. I'm with you on the fact that, I've always, been a fan of the Rangers and whatnot. I've always wanted to
As you wear that Cardinals hat.
Yeah, I know. But still, though, I like I said, I've always been a fan of the Rangers, even when they did make the World Series those first 2 years and everything. And I just would like to see them get over that hump and whatnot and see them get back into the postseason. And I think this will be a good chance for them to do that as well. I also think it'll be a good chance for a team like the Chicago White Sox to possibly jump in there, with the division that's pretty good, also with the Twins and the Indians also in that division. But the division I think that we're going to see the toughest to make the playoffs in would have to be the division with the Braves, the Mets, the Phils, and who else? And the Nats. I think that's going to be a tough division to make the playoffs out of. It's got those 4 teams right there. The Mets, if they would have had a good first half last year, they would have been easily, a wild card team over the Nats, because the Nats had a bad, first half of the season last year. They didn't turn around until after the All-Star break. But, I feel like they would have been a playoff team easily last year and whatnot. And I think that they would definitely go over the hump this year doing it. I would also think that the Fields would also be another team that would make that next jump to get into the postseason and whatnot this year. Jumping into the American League, I think that along with the White Sox and the Twins and the Indians division, I also think that, the Rangers division is also going to be a hard division to make playoffs of. You got the A's, the Astros, and the Angels. The Angels, they made a lot of big moves during free agency and whatnot. So I think that they're going to be a tough team to beat, especially with the 60-game season and whatnot. And like you always refer back to, whichever team can get hot. The Angels, they can be one of those teams. The White Sox can be one of those teams. The Tampa Bay Rays, they were that team last year that got hot, and they can be another team that can just make that next jump to possibly, compete for the division. I don't think that they'll win over the Yankees, but I definitely think that they'll pass Boston in that also as well. So I like the playoff expansion. Gives new opportunities for teams to jump into the postseason that didn't make it last year and probably would have made it, if the expansion was in last year and whatnot. So I think this is good. I think this is good for the league, especially because of the shortened season and everything.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting toward when we get to October, late September, and then, of course, when the postseason starts in October, see who can, make that last leap to jump in there with the new expansion rule and everything. So it's going to be nice.
Now, Buster, what were those other 2 topics you wanted to bring up?
The universal DH rule thoughts and what's caught our eye the most during opening week so far.
All right, so for universal DH, I love it. I love it. I guess I'm not a traditionalist when it comes to anything. I love innovation. I love change in almost every aspect. And I just think it's very antiquated that the MLB has had 2 different leagues with 2 different rules. Albeit the only difference, everything's the same except for that. I think it's ridiculous to have one league, the American League, with a designated hitter, and then the National League having the pitchers bat every game. I've never liked it. I've never understood it. I don't know the reasoning behind it, however far backdated it was. But I love the universal DH. I know it's only for this year specifically, and I think that was mostly because teams are only playing their own division and then their counterpart division. So like the AL West is playing the AL West and the NL West. So because you're playing a lot more interleague games this year than in a normal year, I think they realized to level the playing field, they needed to go universal DH. But I also think that this is a stepping stone towards making the universal DH a forever thing, which I think it should be. Not only does it keep the pitchers from having to, worry about batting. That's just ridiculous. They don't want to bat. They hate it. The only pitcher that likes to bat is Madison Bumgarner because the dude can rake. Other than that, no. The pitchers don't want to be up there. They do not want to bat. They sure as hell don't want to be on base. They don't want to. So it just doesn't make any sense that we're still doing this in the year 2020. So it's exciting that they're going with the universal DH. I love it. And I hope it's something that is here to stay because I think it's just good for the game. It opens up 15 more spots. I mean, basically, it opens up 15 more jobs because those guys that are aging out of their position, those guys who played third base and first base for their career, but now they're turning 35, 36, 37 years old. They can still hit the ball. They can still crush it. The big poppies of the world, they can crush the ball, but they don't play good defense anymore. Those guys now, they used to only could play in the American League because the National League wouldn't touch them because they didn't want to put them in the field. They're a liability in the field. But now you're opening up 15 more jobs. If the NL has a DH position, that opens the door for more guys at the end of their career. They have more job opportunities to keep playing because they can still hit. So I think it's great all the way around.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one, Rob. I love the rule. I think it's well overdue, in my opinion. I think the rule should have been in place years ago. You know, like you said, Rob, pitchers they don't want to hit. The only pitcher that likes to hit is Mad Bum. That's it.
Uh-huh.
They don't want to hit, and then of course, if they do end up getting on base, then they don't want to be running bases. You know, the one thing they want to focus on most during the game is pitching.
Yep.
And I think it's good for the pitchers in that way because, you know, you got a dude out there that's dealing, you know, he's in the seventh inning now, you know, and he's due up to bat the next inning, but, you know, you don't want to take him out because he's dealing.
Yep.
Now you don't have to worry about that. Now you can just roll with your starter. If he's dealing, then he's dealing. You don't have to worry about pulling him out because he's due up to bat in the next inning and whatnot. So I think it's good. Like you touched on also with the players that are aging, that, you know, that are a liability in the field, you know, players like, you know, Nelson Cruz or Edwin Encarnacion, you know, Ryan Braun, you know, Ryan Zimmerman, you know what I'm saying? Those guys at one part of their career were good defensive players and whatnot, but now that they're aging, you know, they're pretty much a liability in the field now. So I think it's good for them. You know, it'll be good to keep their career going. You know, now they can just focus on hitting now. Maybe they'll get plugged in the field, you know, every once in a while, you know, just to keep themselves active and whatnot. But as far as them just being guys that can still just hit the ball, but not very good on the defensive side of the ball, this is very good for them and whatnot. Yeah, I think it's good, man. I think it's really good.
And I've always felt like for years that the National League team, to me, always had an advantage in the World Series because, as you know, in the World Series, you go back and forth from one team's home park to the other.
Right.
And depending on which home park you were in, you played by those rules. So when the American League team was playing in the World Series in the National League team's park, their pitchers had to bat. Their pitchers don't bat all season long.
Not at all.
Other than, you know,
when they
here
play
and there,
right.
There's a few interleague games, but they don't bat regularly. So now you've got an American League team going into this National League park, and all of a sudden you're telling a guy like you, Darvish, go swing the bat. and he doesn't bat. I mean, he does now because he plays for the Cubs. But, I mean, that's just not normal.
Right.
So that was always, to me, an advantage to the National League team. Because when the National League team went down to the American League team's park,
they can DH.
They're throwing in a DH. Right. So they're gaining a better batter. And so to me, that was always gave the upper hand to the National League when it came to the World Series. So I'm a big fan of having the universal DH for sure.
Yeah, I love it.
So Darvish doesn't hit dingers?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
He gives them up.
Oh.
Yeah. You can give Darvish 100 at bats. I guarantee you he wouldn't hit one dinger.
Oh,
but give him 100 pitches and he'll give up 2 dingers.
Like I was talking to a guy on Instagram the other day, and I asked him about the whole universal DH rule and whatnot, and he said that he's gonna miss the fact that we won't get to see moments this year like what we seen with Bartolo Colon whenever he hit that home run. And I told him, man, I was like, listen, man, that was a once in a lifetime thing, man. If you give Big Sexy 100 at bats, I guarantee you he will not hit another dinger. All right, he just caught it that game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He just got lucky and he caught it.
I feel like there's a moment I need to look up because that sounds pretty amazing. Because I definitely know who y'all are talking about.
Yeah, you need to go look that up, man. It was actually pretty good, but still though,
man.
it's a once in a lifetime thing, man.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll ever. I don't think he'll do that. So, but yeah, I love the new DH rule. I think it's and then on top of that too, also it gives managers a chance to play around with their lineups. You know what I'm saying? Put dudes in certain spots. One lineup can be working one game. He'll roll with that one lineup that gave him that success in that one game, and he'll just roll with it throughout the whole entire season and whatnot. And then if it doesn't work out and whatnot, he can always, switch guys in and out. You know what I'm saying? I guess you can pretty much say that's like giving a guy a day off, whatnot, put him in the DH spot.
Right. Yeah.
Put someone else in this position and whatnot. So I guess you could say that's pretty much what managers may use that for this season. Is just giving guys a day off. Just focus on hitting. You don't have to play the field.
Right. Exactly. It's kind of like a half day off.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the field, but you still are out there getting those at bats in.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I like it.
Absolutely.
What was your you had one more, didn't you, Buster?
Yeah, I got one more. It's just what's caught our eyes the most during opening week so far, and I'm gonna tag on it because mine's pretty simple. We talked about it before we got on Zoom. I'm really impressed of what I've seen. I mean, I know we're only 2 games in so far, but I'm really impressed with what I've seen from Giancarlo so far to start the season. I heard the commentators mention on opening night that he is the leanest that he has been his whole career this season. So I think that's going to be pretty good as far as him staying healthy and whatnot. And then the fact that he's hit 2 bombs in 2 games, I think that's a big step towards him getting back to the Giancarlo standing that we're used to seeing. That guy getting up there. Hey, you put a not like on opening night, Scherzer threw a 96-mile-per-hour fastball right in his kitchen. Stanton didn't miss it, not one bit. I mean, he caught it and he got all of it. And then just with tonight, same dude threw like a 95-mile-per-hour sinker. It broke towards him, and he caught it, and he got every bit of it. So I mean, I think I really think that this, and then with the fact that the shortened season and whatnot may also help him with his health and everything. So I think by him getting off to this hot start and everything, I think we're going to be seeing the Giancarlo thing that we're used to seeing, that we've seen before in the past and everything. So that's really what's caught my eye the most so far.
The only thing that's really caught my eye, honestly, I've been working the past 2 days, and really all I've seen, other than some highlights here and there, is both of the Rangers games. I've been able to watch those. Obviously, I'm a huge Rangers fan. That's where my main focus is always going to be when it comes to the MLB season. What I've noticed so far, they're in that brand new ballpark. What I've noticed is that ballpark is playing extremely large. That's a ballpark that is going to be pitcher friendly.
Yes, sir.
As far as it looks so far, I know we're only 2 games into its life, but that so far has played extremely large. The Rangers have yet to hit a home run in that ballpark in the regular season. They did hit one in one of those exhibition games. But it's playing very large, which is unfortunate for guys like Joey Gallo, and Willie Calhoun, who are used to being able to rake in their ballpark, because that old ballpark had that jet stream that you get it up into there and that ball's gone. So I'll be interested to see how this new ballpark plays out over the course of the year. I did notice, I mean, to me, Lance Lynn yesterday for the Rangers was incredible. He went right back to that all-star caliber season he had last year. It wasn't easy, but he battled through it with 9 Ks, went 6 innings, 108 pitches. Tonight or this afternoon, Mike Minor was kind of back to his form from last year, looking great. He did get the loss today. He gave up 3 runs, and the Rangers came up just a little bit short, 3-2. Yesterday night, I noticed some struggles with the save for Jose Leclerc. This is a very common problem for the Rangers. We can't save ball games. They just can't. Sean Tollison in 2016, Sam Dyson, Leclerc struggled through it last year. It's the guys that we put into the closing role are phenomenal 8th inning pitchers. And then when they get promoted to closer, they forget how to pitch. And I don't know what it is about wearing the Rangers uniform and pitching in the 9th inning, but it's impossible.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Rob. See, do you think they should just go closer by committee?
And just because of the history,
history, yeah.
Yes. because if you become the closer, then you can't close. You just can't do it anymore. So
I feel like when you get, like, say for instance, you're that guy, like you said, that's always been an amazing setup man, and then you get that closer title, I feel like that kind of puts pressure on that guy because he's so used to being the setup guy.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So when he gets that closer title, I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on him.
You've got to be just like a stone cold killer with no pulse. You got to be Mariano Rivera. I mean, you got to be like that type of guy. And I think the Rangers have a guy like that on the staff, but I hesitate to say it because he's had some ups and downs, but he's got the stuff to be a closer, and he's got the mentality, I think, to be a closer, and that's Jesse Chavez. I don't know if you know much about him. He pitched yesterday.
I seen him pitch yesterday. Yeah,
he's got the stuff to do it, and I think he has the mentality to do it. He reminds me of like Wild Thing from the movie, Major League.
Yes.
But I don't know what it is about that role, but that's all that's really stood out for me in the season so far is just Rangers stuff. But they're 1-1. I was hoping they would get be 2-0 going into tomorrow, but I'm excited about the outlook of the season. I'm really just excited to have sports back on the television.
And I think we both feel the exact same way. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add to tonight?
Not tonight, but I did want to mention next week, I think we have on the list the too early NFL MVP to cover. And I know you've got some other things on there, but I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Make sure that on Tuesday.
I do like that. So we will be back on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Is that right, Rob?
That's correct.
We will be back on Tuesday, 4 p.m. We will be talking about too early MVP for the NFL. We're probably going to do our predictions for the AFC and talk more about the baseball season. I'll have to get some more topics on the MLB. Hopefully something comes up, but we will be back 4 p.m. Central Time, and I hope y'all have a great night.